Okay, fam, welcome back. So today we are going to go over the Grayscale Trust and a whole number of other things because we have got a lot to talk about. So with that being said, let's get it. All right. So the first thing I want to show you guys here, actually, let me go over this first. Okay, so we're gonna go over the traditional markets. I'm going to give you guys a rundown of all the other crypto stuff. Then we're going to talk about the elections. Yes, I know they're over with, but we still need to talk about it. This is important, okay, as it ties into finance. And then we're going to talk about the Fed, the dividend distributions. Then we'll get into the trusts, okay? So, first thing here is the NASDAQ, as you guys can see on the weekly, has had a massive, massive godlike candle coming up here to the highs. This is a pretty strong signal, in my opinion, that we're about to push to new all-time highs. Again, this is on the weekly time frame, and of course, you can see the S&P here. This one, yeah, I was pretty confident we were going to go to new all-time highs once the elections were over with. Look, the elections are what they are in terms of politics, but when it comes to finance, you guys got to understand how the markets work, okay? The elections and the midterms create massive uncertainty. That's the reason why we saw this red back here and in crypto going into the elections, okay? As soon as the markets knew for certain exactly what to expect from the elections, what kind of policies they should expect, yada, yada, once the elections are actually over, like I told you guys before, those headwinds become tailwinds, okay? So instead of it being bearish pressure because it's uncertain, it now becomes certain, which gives the market the green light to just go ahead and run up, right? So that's what we're seeing right now effectively. So I did want to point that out, okay? Also, I want to point out here that Bitcoin, yes, Bitcoin, the bitty Bitcoin, has actually made a new daily high with the highest close that we have seen since the peak back in March of this year. Okay. So the peak that we saw that was the highest back in March of this year was at 73,100. Ever since the election results came out. And again, a lot of times it just takes that one catalyst to send the markets to the next level higher. Okay. In this case, it was the elections and the midterms. So the last daily candle close that we got here was 75,500. That is $4,000 higher than that last candle. Like I told you guys, if look, I'll say like I said, I'll say once again like I said before, okay? If we get a daily or a weekly candle on Bitcoin that closes higher than that March high, in my opinion, that is the signal to the start of the actual breakout of this last parabolic move of the bull run. Okay, now again, the bull run should last another 12 months, but in terms of Bitcoin actually doing the Bitcoin bull run, not the spot ETF bull run, and we talked about that already. I think this is it. Okay, this is likely it right here. So we got the confirmation on the daily. If we go over to the weekly, you can see this is clearly a breakout. Okay, we just need 4 more days to confirm a close. If we get a close above 71,300, that same level on the weekly, that is a confirmation on the daily and the weekly time frame that this is it. Okay, we got our breakout right here. All right, so now I also want to go over the different crypto positions today. The markets went absolutely stupid today. I'm sure you guys saw it. There was lots and lots of green. Just one of our portfolios, one of them right here, right now, was up 11% on the day. Okay, that's absolutely bonkers. Again, we have not seen a day like this, as far as I can remember, in a long time, if ever. So, yeah, just going over the other crypto positions here, you can see Coinbase had a staggering 31% move up. Today, MSTR had a 13% move up. Even the non-crypto things like Nvidia was up 4%, Soxel was up 9%, Tesla was up a whopping 15%. Of course, you guys know Elon is the founder of Tesla, and he's on Trump's cabinet apparently now. So that's obviously very bullish for the stock. And then you have things like DJT, of course, that moonshot as well. So in terms of the miners just went stupid too. Again, like I told you guys before, policies. Okay, the markets will position for the upside depending on who gets elected based on the policies of that candidate. Okay, we know that Trump is pro-Bitcoin. He said he wants all the Bitcoin mined in the USA. Okay, so what does that mean for the miners? That means if all the Bitcoin gets mined in the USA, which I'm not so sure that's realistic, but let's just say that, the majority of the hash power happens in the USA. That is extremely bullish for the miners. Okay, so the market participants that have the big money, they're going to look at those policies and say, well, Trump wants to mine all the Bitcoin in the USA. Why don't I just go ahead and buy the miners? Right? Makes sense. So Mara up 19%, Riot up 26%. I can go on and on about this, but you can see how stupid these gains are. I mean, they're double digits all across the board. Even the meme stocks were pumping a little bit today, although not as obvious. And a lot of the other cryptos were pumping, like Ethereum, and a lot of the altcoins were also up massively as well. And we did buy some more as soon as we saw that breakout last night on Bitcoin. We just decided to go ahead and load a little bit more, which we'll talk about later. I think probably on Sunday. Okay, so we'll get into the Grayscale Trust here in a minute. They haven't moved as much, but actually, I shouldn't say that. BCHG did move a lot. That's a 16% gain, and Zcash moved up a massive 31%. So, again, I don't have a lot of familiarity with the trust, so it's hard to say exactly when they're going to move, but we will definitely keep an eye out on it and let you guys know what's going on. Again, if you we're not always going to be able to do this day to day. So if you guys want to get early access to the content, sign up for a membership. Again, I'm not telling you to, but it's $25 a month. If you want to get the access to the content early, whatever it is, then that would be the easiest way to do it. Of course, we can post on X to let you guys know what's going on too. So, all right, so let's get into the elections. So, you guys know that Trump won the presidency. Okay, that much should have been obvious for anybody that was watching. So he did win 295 to 226, exactly as we predicted. The Republicans have taken control of the Senate again, also exactly what we predicted. So we had a toss-up as to what we thought was going to happen with the House. Either Republicans were going to control the Senate and the Democrats were going to control the House, just like back in 2016. But on second thought, if the Republicans win the House as well, to be honest, I don't really have a problem with that. And I'm going to explain why. So everybody that is on the dream team, as I like to refer to it, with Trump. Okay, so you got Trump, Vivek, RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, Joe Rogan, and Elon Musk. Every single one of those people, okay, well, with the exception of JD Vance, as far as I know, but every single one of those people, including Trump, either used to be a Democrat or they used to be an independent, or they still are an independent, but they're with the Republican Party now, okay? Here's why this matters. Because if the people in charge understand how to play both sides of the fence, both Republican and Democrat, that's good for policy. Here's why. In terms of finance policy, I'm actually expecting that even if the Republicans control all three branches of government, that their policies in terms of finance and regulations are going to be more moderate than your typical Republican, because Republicans love to try to squeeze every penny out of everything they can get. Okay, they're very tight with finance. In this instance, I don't think that's going to happen again, because most of this party that is running the show is going to be mostly independent or former Democrat. The finance policies are likely going to be more in the middle, not so much to the right. Okay, and the markets, once they realize this, they're going to love it. Okay, and they're going to start ripping higher because they'll be like, "Oh, great, they're spending money." Yeah, they're probably going to spend money. Okay, because again, I'm expecting the policies that they have to be a little bit more moderate. So this is probably the only things that the markets are waiting for, but obviously they don't care that much because they've pretty much already gone up. Okay, so the Fed. So still getting quarter basis points cuts going forward. The elections clearly didn't change that. Whether Trump fires Powell or not, I don't know. I'm sure they're going to talk about it during the Fed meeting. We'll just have to wait and see how that one plays out. Okay. In my opinion, I don't think he's actually going to do it because Powell wants to keep his job. And, if Trump says like, hey, if you you do what we want you to do here, we might let you stay in office instead of picking somebody else. He might be like, okay, yeah, sure. I'll cut rates, whatever. This is kind of like hypothetically how the conversation would go, right? Okay, so in terms of dividend distributions here, so 26 cents on QDTE. Again, this is the the declaration date. So last day to get it before the X date would have been today. And then, of course, you have next week and the week after that and all that you can do to position. But 26 cents, I'd say that's pretty good. It's probably going to be more next week because, again, the elections have kicked off the volatility in the markets. So next one we got here, XDTE. So this one, 21 cents. That's also pretty good. I mean, that's pretty much right on par with QDT. And like I said, all three of these, I'm expecting the distributions on these to skyrocket next week because the volatility has gone absolutely stupid this week because of the elections. So if the trading happens before the actual declaration, then theoretically the volatility should be accounted for next week. RDTE, you guys can see here, is about the same as QDTE, so still pretty good, 26 cents. All right, so again, usually I don't go over these, but I'm going to go over them anyways because the declaration was, or ex-dividend date was recent, so GPIC, 41 or 0.413 cents, and then, of course, the other one, the S&P version, GPIX, was 34, a little bit over 34 cents. Okay, yield max ETFs. So YMAX, roughly about 12 cents. YMAG, 20.5 cents. You got NVDY, $1.02. DIPS, which is the inverse. Personally, I would not be shorting NVIDIA right now. It just broke out of new all-time highs at 140, so 61 cents here. FB, 83.5 cents. GDXY, 48.5 cents. Babo, 82 cents. JPMO, 35 cents. MRNY 40 cents, and then PLTY $2.20. Of course, Palantir is an absolute monster right now. This thing has just not stopped at all. It's just been, I mean, dude, I would not touch this thing with a mile long pole. It went from like $20-something to $55 in like a couple of months. So that's a little scary. I mean, it could just keep going up, but personally, I think it's a little expensive. So, all right, now going over the Grayscale Trust. So, I'll tell you guys, like I told you before, okay, LTC and BCHG likely going to start popping off with Bitcoin. That's to be expected. And then the rollover happens to Ethereum and the altcoins later. And that should reflect ideally with the trusts, but we'll see if there's any correlation there. I think it's a little bit early to say at this point. So LTCN buy zone still between that kind of $13 to $16 area. Targets up here between 25 to 54. And then, of course, the all-time high is at 510, so 320% gain there. BCHG, nice big fat green day. Doesn't look like it, but it was pretty green. So the buy zone as of right now, I would say would still be somewhere between 620 to about 770. Again, this weekly candle has not confirmed above the EMAs yet. So 1050 to 20, and then you have about 24 for potential targets. So maximum move here going to be roughly about 285%. HSEN, so this one's retesting the top of the channel. That's to be expected. So anywhere between 350 to about 420 as support, and then 670 going up to about 10.5 as the target. Roughly about 170% move. ETCG, nice little green day. It does look like it actually wants to break up like I expected, even though this is a bearish pattern and a bearish trend. Like I said, I didn't think that was going to happen. It does appear that that's what's going on here. We'll just have to wait and see. We got 2 more days. So $7 to about $10, and then $13.20 to about $20 for the swing high in this case. So 178%. ETH, this one was actually pretty bullish, so nice green day here. The buy zone is still going to be at 1850. And then you have roughly about 23 to, let's see here, 2870, and then the cup and handle target at 47.5. 162% move here. Again, you see that big cup and handle. The cup itself is kind of ugly. There is also an inverse head and shoulders here, but the bigger pattern in this case would be the actual cup itself. So GBAT, support down here, 450 to 520. The resistance is going to be roughly about $8 all the way up to 32, or not resistance, but I mean kind of your target range there. So 580% move on this one. FILG, 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 whatever you want to call it. This thing is dipping down a little bit more, which is not great, but I mean, again, if you're trying to position in crypto, this is exactly what you want. Okay, you want these things to be as cheap as possible, so that way when they rip off to the moon, you just make stupid gains. I mean, if this thing goes back to all-time highs and that's all it does, you'd make a 20x on your money. Okay. Um, Again, I'm not saying that as a signal like, oh yeah, you guys should buy this. I'm not telling you to buy anything. Okay. I'm just telling you, crypto investors, whales that have a lot of money, they look for stuff like this and they're like, well, it's kind of just sitting there not doing much of anything at the lows, or it's heading in that direction. Let me keep an eye on this one, or maybe even go ahead and buy some, right? People in the crypto space that have hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, they're doing this kind of thing, okay? So support down here 410 to 1170. I'm just going to give you guys that range. You can decide where you think this thing's going to bottom out. Then you got 35 to 40 or 37 to 45, and then I'd say about 420, 430 somewhere in there at the top. So just from the top of that support to the swing high up there, all-time high, 3,400% gain. GLIV, it's hard to say on this one too. Maybe it kind of bounces off the top here at the $7 range. If that's the case, the target would then be somewhere between $12.50 to about 80. I'd say about 80, 81 bucks, somewhere in there. So this move becomes roughly about 1,075% gain. G-Link. So it does look like we're double tapping this wick low here, so that could be the bottom. So maybe anywhere between 27.80 to about 45 is a good range to buy. 67 to 220 is the kind of target range here. And again, this is all just my opinion. So 642% gain here. GSOL, nasty drop. I don't know what that's about, but if you've been waiting for a dip buy, this may be the beginning of an opportunity for you. It does look like it's kind of holding the bottom of this, what used to be some kind of channel here. So it also hit the support. Like I told you guys before, often the markets will do that. They'll drop down to a support and then immediately get sucked back up. That's kind of what we're seeing here. So your buy zone could be anywhere from 172 to about 280. And then you have that 580 as the all-time highs. So worst case scenario, we get another dip down to this wick, which again, I really highly doubt is going to happen. 220% gain. GXLM buy zones anywhere from 1470 to about 24. And then you got your swing high up there at 70. 380% gain. Mana. So this one, again, it looks like Wall Street's playing their little games here. Whoever's got the big money in these, okay? You got this big wick here, smaller wick. So maybe I could just draw like a little line here and say, okay, maybe this is going to hold. We'll just have to wait and see on that one. But yeah, as of right now, the kind of, I'd say somewhere between like maybe 550 to 830, kind of a good buy zone is pretty much sitting at that 830 right now. So targets here, 17 to roughly about 70. So this move would be about 740%. Zcash, big fat green candle, but still within the range. So the range again is 320 to 6. Targets here roughly about 810 to I'd say about 10.5 on this one. So maximum move here roughly about 215% gain. Now I may or may not be able to do some content for you guys on the Fed meeting tomorrow, but I will say this in advance of it, okay? A lot of people think that now that Trump has gotten reelected that there's going to be a resurgence of inflation because they're like, oh, he's going to slam rates to the floor and then inflation is going to rip off to the moon. Guys, I really highly doubt that's going to happen, okay? Inflation was extremely low when Trump was in office the entire time. Like I told you guys before, it was not until January of 2021 during Biden's inauguration in January of 2021 that inflation had its first month spike before it eventually went to all-time highs, okay? And again, that lined up perfectly with the killing of the Keystone Pipeline between Canada and the United States, okay? Energy independence is key to making sure inflation does not happen in the United States. You got to understand how important that is, okay? There is other things, but that was the one link there that kind of links how the inflation started. So I think the markets are kind of misplacing their judgments there, in my opinion. The other thing I want to say about this is that I think that likely because the Fed has had rates high for so long that even if the rates get slammed to the floor, there's still probably not going to be a resurgence of inflation, because you guys got to remember the Fed has raised rates since March of 2022, okay? And they're just starting to cut. You don't just get a resurgence of inflation overnight when you've had the Fed funds rate at all-time highs for nearly 2 years, okay? That doesn't happen. So anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.